Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Wednesday, April 3rd. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We will be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up. After that, we'll move over to RotoWire, talk about the weather report for today. It's only a 5-game main slate, but there are a couple games in pretty big weather spots. If you look across the day in totality for MLB, a lot of weather spots out there today across the country. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my core picks, which is going to be one pitcher, 4 hitters. It's going to be a combination of past history versus their respective opponent and some recent history as well. And then after that, we'll get over to my cheat sheet, which is up on the Sports Affiliation website, and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. At the pitcher position, we went with Shane Bieber, $10,200. Got to 55 points. He was a hit and the top overall pitcher on yesterday's slate. And then at second base, you could also play my first base or outfield. We had Brendan Donovan, $2,600, pay down option there. Got to 15.4, so he was a hit as well. Ultimately ended up being the 6th second baseman overall on yesterday's slate. So not a bad value there whatsoever. And then at third base, we have Max Muncy, $3,500, got to 12.2, so did give him a hit as well. And he ended up being the 2nd overall third baseman on yesterday's slate. And then we moved down to outfield with J.J. Bleday, who was kind of my favorite paydown option yesterday, $2,600. And he got to 28.2, so he was a really, really good hit as a paydown option yesterday. Ended up being the 4th highest scoring outfielder. And then below him, we had Christopher Morel, who was another guy that was pretty versatile, second base, third base, or outfield. $3,400, got to 24.9, so he was in the 5th overall outfielder on yesterday's slate. So a 5-for-5 day in terms of hits. As long as you had some other decent plays alongside these guys, you had a really good chance of cashing on yesterday's slate. Hopefully you played some of those other good Cubs players as well. For that Cubs stack was the one that was a little bit scary, kind of with the rain chances there, but that game did ultimately end up going off, and that was kind of the one lone team that really did put some runs across the plate. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about those weather spots for tonight's slate overall. So once again, it's a 5-game main slate. We're going to start off with the Pittsburgh Pirates, Washington Nationals, 69% chance of rain there, so it's going to be one that we are monitoring throughout the day. And then the 2 other ones that we'll be watching are going to be the New York Mets, who out in New York have had a lot of rain this week, it seems like. 99% chance of rain for that game between the Mets and the Tigers, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that one once again. I believe that was the one game that did get postponed from yesterday. And then we have the Colorado Rockies and the Chicago Cubs. Once again, 59% chance of rain in Chicago. So that will be the 3rd and final game that we will be monitoring weather-wise. Obviously, they were able to play last night, so hopefully that will be the same case once again tonight. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about those core picks for tonight's slate overall. So we're going to start off at pitcher with Mitch Keller of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Obviously, it is a potential weather spot, so we will monitor that as the day moves along. But it goes against the Washington Nationals tonight. Should be a pretty favorable matchup. He's got pretty decent history versus them in the past. The 2 guys that have hit him decently well in the past, Jesse Winker and Eddie Rosario, both kind of on the wrong side of their careers, so should be pretty favorable for him overall. Jesse Winker is dealing with an illness as well. So definitely do like Mitch Keller tonight. Coming off a lackluster start to start the year, but in his start last year versus this Washington team, he had 55 fantasy points. So if he can do anything similar to that tonight, going to be a really good value overall. Then we're going to move down to first base with Cody Bellinger. You could also play him down in the outfield. He is $3,400. He is 4 for 11 in his career versus Cal Quantrill, who is the expected starting pitcher for the Colorado Rockies tonight. I do really like going back to this Cubs stack once again today, assuming this game ultimately does end up going off. So Cody Bellinger going to be a big part of that. If you want to stack Christopher Morel in there as well, definitely don't have a problem going back to him in his hot start to start the season. He was just a guy that was 0 for 2 versus Cal Quantrill in his career, so I just went with Bellinger, who does have a little bit better history. And Bellinger does have at least 1 hit in 4 out of his 5 games this season. Only 1 multi-hit game during that time, though. But he has finished with double-digit fantasy points in 4 out of his 5 games. So, seems like a pretty safe option. If he ultimately ends up getting like a home run or a stolen base, could have a little bit of higher upside for more at the same time as well. Then we're going to move down to third baseman Key Brian Hayes, $3,200, off to an incredible start so far this season. He has no history in his career against Trevor Williams, the expected starting pitcher for the Washington Nationals tonight. But he is on a 5-game hitting streak, and 4 of those games are multi-hit games. So definitely do like the upside that he does present tonight overall. And then in the outfield, we're going with his teammate Brian Reynolds, $3,600, another guy that is off to a really good start. 5-game hitting streak. 3 of those games have been multi-hit games, and he is 2 for 5 in his career versus Trevor Williams, so some decent history there, although it is a rather short sample size. And kind of the one lone guy in the core picks today that has not lived up to expectations so far this season, we're betting more on past history here, is going to be Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros. He is $3,900, so a little bit of a reduced price for him overall just because he has not had that success to start the year. It's been a really slow start. But he was hampered a little bit by injury towards the end of spring training, so maybe that's part of the reason why. But the past history versus Chris Bassett, the expected starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays tonight, 5 for 15 versus him in his career with 4 home runs. That is the most home runs of any hitter versus pitcher matchup overall for tonight's slate overall. So taking a chance here with Yordan Alvarez. Probably not going with a full-on Houston stack or anything else like that, but, kind of as a one-off, if he hits that home run, could really pay off for us overall. But, if you don't want to play him, I definitely understand that with the slow start, with a little bit of injury towards the end of spring training, does make a little bit of sense there if that is something you want to avoid overall. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $12,300 remaining. Just under $3,100 per player, so a good amount of money left over, whether you want to pay up for a couple other options, pay down at a couple other spots, or want to go with a little bit more balanced approach overall. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet up on the Sports Affiliation website and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. So you probably guessed it already, but the Pittsburgh Pirates are on this list going against Trevor Williams. Not like a long list of history there, but do like getting the guys like Brian Reynolds, Brian Hayes, Rowdy Tellez 1 for 2 versus him in his career as well, although Rowdy has not played a ton of games so far to start the year. But a righty on lefty matchup should be a pretty favorable one for him just in general. So do like his upside tonight. If you want to get to Andrew McCutchen, he's pretty cheap at this point in time. Jack Sawinski's out there. We got Henry Davis that I did list on the cheat sheet as well. A lot of different opportunities to get to this Pittsburgh Pirates team overall, obviously assuming that game does ultimately end up going off. Then we are going to attack both sides of the Cubs and Rockies game, so I think both are going to be very interesting. Rockies probably going against Ben Brown is the guy that's going to throw the most innings tonight for the Chicago Cubs. I believe it's kind of listed as Luke Little as like the opener. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes with this overall, so we'll see who ultimately ends up starting with the Cubs. At one point in time, I did see Drew Smyly on Roster Resource. I believe on RotoWire it's been listed as Ben Brown as the primary guy, so we'll see what it ultimately looks like as the day moves on. But either way, kind of like this Rockies lineup, which is something that we haven't had the chance to say overall this season. And then on the Cubs side, going against Cal Quantrill should be a pretty favorable matchup, so as long as this game goes off, I do like both offenses on both sides. And then last but not least, we have the Dodgers, who are going against Kyle Harrison. He did make 2 starts versus them last season. He did have some pretty good success against their hitters, but still a relatively young, unproven pitcher. So there is a little bit of upside to be had there. Maybe the Dodgers are not as popular as they are on a typical day, so maybe a good way to get some leverage there. And maybe some of these other guys sneak in terms of bats. Kiki Hernandez, Chris Taylor. Some of them guys could be potential value options at the same time as well, going against the left-handed pitcher and Kyle Harrison. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown in terms of my recap, the weather report for today, my core picks, and the top GPP stacks. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then, as always, I'll be listing any weather updates that do come out throughout the day, as well as if there's any changes to my core picks, whether guys starting or not, maybe one of those games ultimately gets postponed due to weather or delayed. And if we want to switch off from there, definitely makes a little bit of sense. But with that being said, if you're brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time or have yet to do so, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday, and then once a week I am doing my UFL DFS video as well. So if you're interested in that, definitely be sure to check out that video as well. That's over on the DraftKings side. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's a 100% match on your initial deposit up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,500 on your initial deposit. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. Obviously, a great time to bet on sports at this point in time. We got NBA going on. We got March Madness. We got MLB. We got UFL. We got NHL. So a lot of different things out there. So definitely something for you if that is something that you're interested in. If you have any questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.